Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Black Sheep Acres. Finally going to get to have some of this today. Yesterday we were without power for 15 hours. So I didn't get a chance to make any coffee, and I didn't feel like making coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it finally came back on. So this morning I finally get to have a cup. I think that's what we're going to talk about today, is being a little bit more prepared for the smaller incidents in life that I already thought I was prepared for, and found out yesterday that I was not as prepared as I thought I was. I've never had power out that long in the winter before, and I still thought I was prepared for it and wasn't. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Being more prepared for the small things. It's a beautiful morning out this morning. It's going to be warm, and I think we're going to do a little walk through the woods too today. Besides talking about being prepared, we're going to, my daughter's been after me to go with her to look for shed antlers. She's been pretty good at it. She's in 4th grade, and she's found, I think, 3 or 4 so far. Her and her sister found a set. The first time they found antlers was they found a set of antlers that my wife had been actually looking at when she's doing dishes. She was looking at up in the pasture and just thought it was a, old tuft of weeds or something sticking up through the snow. And the girls went up there and found them on their own. Found a pretty nice set of 8-point antlers. So I think that's what we're going to do today. It's a beautiful Sunday. We're going to take some time to enjoy it. Hey guys, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about being prepared for like power outages and stuff like that. I thought I was prepared. Normally our power outages that last any amount of time have always been in the summer, when the worst you got to worry about is keeping your refrigerator and your freezers from everything melting down in, and not having air conditioning, which we don't have anyway. So in winter, I always thought I was pretty prepared for what would happen in the winter. We just put a new furnace in this last fall, and when I hooked it up, the old one was hooked direct into the power supply with no plug. So I put a outlet in and a plug on this one so I could easily hook it to a generator so we could have heat. We have an LP furnace, and you got to have electricity to run the blowers and run the furnace. And I've had this old generator here around the place for, well, a lot of years, and it's always been pretty good. Gave me a little bit of trouble last year when we were having all the power outages. Of course, I couldn't get the thing started, but I usually try to start it occasionally and make sure everything works. And I usually run it completely dry of gas or drain it out so it doesn't have a bunch of old gas in it. But for some reason last year when I went to start it, it didn't want to start. But we got that issue resolved and everything was fine. Well, what happened this winter, or yesterday, was 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and I knew, that the power had went off. I mean, everything goes silent in the house. And the furnace was running at the time and kicked on and off a little bit. So I knew that something wasn't right. The power went off. Well, I didn't worry about it too much. Figured it'd be back on in a few hours, no big deal. Well, turns out 2 o'clock in the morning, a drunk driver hit telephone pole, which isn't a big deal, shouldn't take too long to fix. I don't know the extent of what damage was done there, but I know the telephone pole is completely broke in half and the top part of the pole was up in the air, hooked to the power lines. But anyway, didn't figure it'd take that long to fix. Well, there was a lot of people without power yesterday for at least 15 hours. So in that time, you got to worry about your refrigerator. You're going to want to get some power to that. Well, yesterday I went to hook up the generator after a few hours of, well, it was in the morning, like 8, 9 o'clock before I even worried about getting a generator out. So I got the generator out. First off, I usually keep some gas around, but I don't keep enough gas around in the winter because I don't want it to go bad, because I don't really use anything. I'm not mowing lawn. I'm not generally running the chainsaw because I don't have wood heat anymore. So what I ended up doing is getting this thing out to get it started. Well, first off, I poured what gas I had in and noticed a leak right away. And it slowed down and pretty much stopped. So I wasn't worried about that. It was a rubber line and it pretty much had quit leaking. So I go to fire it up. And it took quite a while to fire it up because it's been months since I fired it. So one of the things I want to do to be a little bit more prepared is at least once a month fire this thing up so I know that it's working. And instead of a couple times a year. So anyway, monkeyed around with it for half hour, finally got it started. And hooked up some things that I thought needed hooked up, refrigerator and so on. And got them running. And then hooked the refrigerator and was going to work on getting the furnace fired up. I just wanted to recharge, get everything cold in the refrigerator first. So then I went to start the furnace, thinking, it's not going to be a big deal. So threw an extension cord on this. The only thing that was running, everything else was unplugged. Went and hooked up to the furnace. And it fired up right away, no big deal. But when it came time for the blower motor to circulate the air to come on, it come on, and right away the exhaust motor and the flame shut right off. So I tried that a couple times. Well, I thought, it's just too light of an extension cord. So I went and got a heavier one. And this is like to get to where my furnace is, it's probably 25 feet. So it's not a whole lot of extension cord. And that was about that size extension cord that I used. So hooked up a heavier duty extension cord. Same thing happened. And I thought I was pretty prepared for anything that might happen. Because I thought, well, I got a generator, no big deal. I can get heat whenever I need it. If it's only going to be out a few hours, no big deal. And I do have wood stove tucked away here that I can put in the house in an emergency if it's going to be days without electricity. Well, this was just going to be a short time. They had posted, oh, it's going to be, on by 11 o'clock. And then it was posted that it wasn't going to be back on till 5 a.m. the next morning. I was like, what's going on here? So you didn't really know what to be prepared for. Well, apparently they were getting everything hooked up and there was a fire at the substation and caused a lot more problems. So we did end up getting power back on at around 5 o'clock that evening. So all was fine. But I could not get this thing to run my furnace. And it should. But it was just pulling too much amps apparently when it goes to kick on the blower motor, that it would the furnace just knew that it wasn't getting enough juice, so it had shut down. Just a safety feature probably. But when the power came back on, my furnace came back on, no problem. So what I'm gonna end up doing is making a heavier extension cord and going through the back window in the basement, which will be a shorter run, and just have a designated extension cord for this. Plus, this coming year, we plan on putting a wood cook stove in the kitchen, which will take care of a lot of the problem. We can always just fire that up if we have issues. I don't plan on heating my house all the time with our wood cook stove, but I had a cook stove in there. It was a flat cooktop stove a couple winters in a row there for a while. But I just didn't like all the smoke in the house, because no matter how good your seals were on that thing, it'd smoke. But I'm gonna get a very good kitchen cook stove. So that's what the plans are for by this fall. I hope to have that hooked up. But just things to keep in mind. Well, and then in all this, with the power out, that hose that was leaking started leaking again. So I thought, well, I'll just cut a little bit off the end. Well, you know what happens when you cut a little bit off the end of the rubber hose. I thought it had enough to stretch and it didn't. So now I'm running around here looking for vacuum hose or some kind of, automotive hose that I can get. Well, I thought I had some laying around here, but I didn't. So I have an old pickup out here. So I stole a section of vacuum line off of that to get my generator fired back up so we could keep the refrigerator running. Well, we're gonna change some batteries and some game cams and some SD cards and look for some shed amps. Alright, girl, we gotta split up here. Let's take this trail down and then we'll split up in the field there. Cover some more ground. I think this one will go down. Maybe. Or not. Here's the trail, kid. Let's keep working our way down. We haven't found any sheds yet. Sure is a beautiful day. Definitely feel spring's coming. Walking the edge of the field here because this is where I found the biggest shed I've ever found a few years ago. It's actually coming up out of the woods around here. and the grass was tall on the edge of the woods, and I tripped over something. I just thought it was a stick. I looked down and there was an antler. So I was out looking for hours, and when I was about done shed hunting, I tripped over one. Maybe that's why I don't hardly ever find any. That's why I send the kid up in the woods. She's got better eyes than me. Got an old scrape here from last fall. I don't know how well you can see it, but that rock right there is all standing by itself. It's not connected to the rest of the hillside. That's called flag rock. And rumors have it that the Native Americans of this area used to hold ceremonies up there, but who knows. My family, I guess, settled this valley, and there's some writings about Indians up on that hillside. So who knows what's all true or not, but I do know that there's some early writings in the early 1800s of Native Americans being up here having ceremonies.
Hopefully they didn't go back on.
So we're in what we call the pines for obvious reasons. And we run across people tracks already, which isn't surprising. This area gets searched over pretty good. But there's some beds, which are always a good place to look for antlers. Lots of sign. But we're going to try to find some place that people haven't been. Lots of sign of deer. Also a little sign of human presence. I think it's the neighbor kids.
One right here.
Well, we officially set off our neighbor's hound dogs. Well, let's start working our way over here. Just wait and I'll help you across. Very slippery. Well, show everybody what we found. That's it for this time. See y'all later.